Stop and think about all the goods you buy in the shops these days. Everything comes in some sort of packaging. Sometimes it's in a paper bag or a cardboard box. Other times it may be packed in glass. But more often, goods come in some kind of plastic. Plastic bottles, plastic wrappings, plastic jars, and then all put into plastic bags. One would never think that the waste and pollution we throw away in the towns and cities inland could easily end up in the oceans thousands of kilometers away. If this litter gets into the stormwater drainage system, the likelihood is that it will take a slow, meandering journey towards the ocean. Every year, more and more litter ends up in the sea. Because much of this litter is so durable, taking many, many years to break down in the marine environment, we are starting to see a greater accumulation of rubbish and pollution in the oceans. With nowhere to go, these pieces of plastic and other waste items are finding their way into the marine environment, sometimes with disastrous effects to both marine life and their ecosystems.
The thrill of discovering more about our ocean has been tempered by a deep fear that it is all under threat of destruction. Early this morning, I came across so much waste and pollution on the shores, and questions raced through my mind. How harmful is this to the environment? What are the different kinds of pollution? And how did it get here in the first place? I decided that sometimes one must take it upon oneself to find out more.
I am Sia. So Parama and I have lived in Grahamstown our whole lives. I love the ocean.
Keeping our oceans clean and pristine for future generations is a challenge we all face. Where does pollution come from?
Pollution, it comes from people. If there were no people, there'd be no pollution. What we put into the sea and what we take out of the sea is too much.
On the surface, the ocean may look pristine. But look closer and you will start to see another picture.
But the sea doesn't only get pollution from what happens on land, it also in fact gets pollution from the ships.
The ocean covers over 70% of the Earth's surface, and it therefore represents the planet's largest habitat. The ocean is also home to the greatest diversity of plants, animals, and microbial groups on Earth. But our oceans are under threat, and pollution is the biggest culprit. We have a responsibility to start doing something about this now. Let's speak to a chopper captain to see what they do with their waste while away at sea.
You're not allowed to throw anything overboard. There's up to 200,000 rand worth of fine. We don't waste anything at sea. We've got a special storage area on top here that we netted in. We also keep log of all the black bags that's on the vessel. We normally offload about 19 bags. Yeah, so it's quite a serious thing. Because this is my life. If we destroy the water by throwing some horse in there, you know, I'll be shooting myself.
Where else does pollution come from?
One of the big aspects of pollution is that great big oil spill in the sky, as it were, because all the carbon dioxide and the muck and so forth that we put into the air goes into the atmosphere. It's changed the atmosphere, so the sea is becoming more acidic, but also the sea is becoming warmer. And even if it's just a small change of a fraction of a degree over the huge mass of the ocean, that causes great big storms.
And great big storms have an impact on both land and sea. They not only cause erosion to the beach and disrupt shipping, but can also escalate into hurricanes, which can cause widespread devastation and destruction. Estimated decomposition rates of marine pollution have been calculated and are quite shocking.
When we first started worrying about plastics in the ocean, it was really about big bits of plastic and entanglement and ingestion of relatively large bits of plastic. But what we've seen over the last 10 years or so is an increasing awareness of very small bits of plastic getting into marine food webs and having unfortunate consequences not only for marine ecosystems but also for humans.
Although there are many different forms of pollution that affect our oceans, plastic is one that is collecting in large quantities. Did you know that there is a giant plastic island floating in the Pacific Ocean, estimated to be twice the size of Texas? What effect does all this plastic have on marine life?
Fish don't digest plastic, so you get fish ingesting it and dying from suffocation essentially and not being able to break it down in their bodies. Plastic is bad for fish eggs, fish larvae that get caught in the plastic and can't get free, and that affects the aquatic environment, and that then there's no recruitment for the next generation, so then you get less and less fishes because so many have been killed by plastic and other pollutants as well. Plastic is not a great thing for just the future of our oceans and rivers and lakes.
What about underwater divers? Have they seen any effects from plastic pollution?
What we see quite often on the dive sites, which is quite sad, is primarily plastic bags, fishing line, wrapped around fish, wrapped around sharks, wrapped around coral, wrapped around starfish. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is even if you throw a plastic bag in the river, upriver, this is a tidal river, so it eventually washes out to sea and pollutes it.
Oil spills are also serious threats to marine life, especially seabirds. Penguins use natural oil secreted from a gland near their tail to keep their feathers waterproof, trapping a layer of air near the skin, which keeps the penguin warm and insulated. Mineral oils from tankers destroy this insulating layer, so that they're at risk of hypothermia as well as poisoning.
Obviously, there are well-known disasters that do happen along our coastline, but it's always a threat. And being a vulnerable species, you can't afford to have 20,000 birds oiled because the total population is about 50,000 at the moment. So we don't want any oil disasters along our South African coastline.
A beach cleanup has revealed some interesting results.
But something that has been becoming more and more of a problem is straws. And people might think this can't do a lot of harm. There was a penguin that had it stuck down its gullet and it actually punched it right through its throat.
Thankfully, oil spills are very rare, but plastic is found everywhere. Who would have thought that something so small and insignificant as a straw could do such a lot of harm to these handsome creatures?
The thing about plastics is they're a really wonderful product. We couldn't imagine our lives without plastics. The problem comes when they're disposed of inappropriately. And the very properties that make plastics so successful, the fact that they're light, that they've got excellent barrier properties, that they don't decay, also makes them really good pollutants because they disperse very easily, because they last a long time in the environment, so they get spread all over the planet. So it's a sort of a double-edged sword. And what happens to plastics once they go out into the environment is when they get exposed to sunlight, they go brittle and break down into little tiny bits. But just because they're going into little tiny bits doesn't mean they go away. There's still little bits of plastic out there in the environment. And as they get smaller and smaller, what happens is that their surface area relative to their volume gets bigger and bigger, and they can start to absorb all sorts of nasty compounds. So even if the plastic doesn't have anything nasty in it when it's manufactured, the very fact that it's drifting around out at sea or in a lake or a river or wherever is it acts like a little sponge that attracts these persistent organic pollutants.
Is it just the marine ecosystems that are affected by these plastic pollutants? Or do they have a more long-term and devastating effect on human beings as well?
So we're looking at things that are primarily hormone disruptors, causing people to become infertile or have feminizing sort of effects on people. And we're also looking at increased risk of cancer in some cases. The really nice thing about the problem is that it's one that we can solve. We just have to change our behavior. To stop plastic getting in the environment, we just have to stop littering and dispose of plastics appropriately.
We have a big responsibility as the youth to look after our environment and ensure our oceans are kept clean. Recycling is vital in ensuring that the current situation is not made worse. We have recycling depots all around the country where we can deposit our paper, glass and plastics so that they can be used again.
We know that ocean pollution is getting out of control.
but there's a lot we can do in order to make a positive impact.
We must hear more about what South Africa is doing regarding the recycling of plastic.
The Swartkops Conservancy in Port Elizabeth looks after their area and the estuary, but has also found ways of earning incomes by turning their plastic waste into useful household goods.
People think, oh, we've got all the space in the world, but we don't. Our landfill sites are filling up. And anyway, it just makes sense if you can reuse something so that people don't have to make more plastic. And if you can make craft from it, why not?
Plastic. Nancy. You read the some double selekiwe. When yenza nge-plastic necingo cha. Yabona la i-plastic bottle umvalo we-500 ye-drink. Ngolo isetshenziswe apha. Sayibo? Yekubeka istena pha emnyango thathela empty kakhulu thola phaka i-recycling ne crochet asiphumuze abantu be-crochet na-crochet yini ngiyekubeka istena emnyango kufaka i-tiles kanobuntu uzenzela into yobeka emnyango ngokwakungakhange ukhuphe nesenti sebo nanseni sebo vele uyi-crochet njengala plastic le.
When I take a stroll along the beach and I find a plastic bag floating in the water, I no longer wonder how it got here or what effect it has on our ocean. Instead, I think of all the ways we could have prevented that plastic bag from reaching our ocean.
Wait. This? No.
The responsibility is on the youth to take charge and make a positive difference. The great thing is that every single one of us can participate. It costs nothing to pick up litter. Try to dispose of it into recycling bins. It's like drops of water in a bucket. Every little drop counts, and pretty soon we will start making a very real impact on this fight against polluting our planet. We need to keep the ocean healthy for us to remain healthy, so it's well worth any effort put in.
Maybe if everybody knew of the importance of disposing litter in the proper manner, our oceans would be protected for our future generations. I think it is not just a matter of talking about it, but taking actions. I know I will.